Guys, I made a discovery yesterday that makes me worry we have got a predator problem here on the homestead. I'm going to share more with you about that, so stick around. Hey guys, welcome back to our channel, The Purpose Driven Homestead. I was driving the ATV the other day, coming down from checking on some stuff, and on my way back, I noticed that some of our bee boxes looked like they had been disturbed. I didn't really stay very long. I needed to get on to something else, but today I'm gonna go check that out. I have a bad feeling about it. So I'm gonna jump in the ATV real quick, and we're gonna go look at it and see what we find. So you can see the path here like I'm talking about. This is where some of the field is, the pasture. It's obviously started to get a little bit cooler now because it's winter and some of the summer grasses are dying off. There's still green clover and things like that back there in the back. We kind of have a gated area here. Here's that path I was talking about that we used to reach other pieces on the property. And here's where we had our bees set up. And we've got a hive here, a hive over there. There's a hive back here as well. And they're all sitting on stumps that we cut down trees from when we did our harvesting this year. We had it logged. And this is what I drove by the other day and saw from a distance. So I've got to walk out there and see what's going on, but this looks way more serious than just something that's blown over. And you can see some of our other bees are doing just fine. They're coming in and out, still making honey for the year. I really like this brand. This is called Bee Castle. I'll actually put a link below for all the stuff that we're using here, but these have turned out really well. I think they've stood up pretty decently for not having been painted. It's only beeswax that is used on the outside of it. I'll probably have to recoat them, but they've done really well. You can see how we have everything situated on stumps, and I do come out occasionally and weed eat around here at night when the bees are less active and just kind of keep it a little bit cleaner, but we wanted to make it as natural as possible so it feels like they're in the wild. So all right, let's have a look here and see what's going on. Yeah, this is definitely not good. This is super bad. This was clearly torn apart by a bear. You can see here some of these frames have been torn apart. There's sections missing here. This was from where it had to be a bear came in here and tore it apart, ate off the honeycomb. You can actually see, I don't know if you can see it here or not, but there's claw marks that come right through here. You can see there's a claw mark where he just kind of scraped it down, ate part of the chunk off here of plastic. Looks like he went up here and was having lunch up here as well. This is, man, this is bad. Looks like some of the other hives may be using this right now. There's bees that are still kind of landing in here. It looks like they're going through and they're stealing what they can out of this process. It's free honey to them, but this whole hive is gone. Yeah, here you can see that this is a frame that looks like he pulled out dead bees on it. Here's a frame that was completely torn apart. I'm guessing this is one, based off what I'm seeing here, this probably had more honey in it than the others. So he went after it, but he just snapped it. The piece here is broken completely off. This went to one of those frames. And got another piece missing somewhere. It looks like he left most of this intact. There's some frames that are broken, but they can be repaired. But it looks like he left these, and these would have been the supers on top that didn't have honey in them yet. So when he knocked them over, he probably looked through here, saw that there was nothing in there, and decided just to move on to the parts that there was, and that would have been the part at the bottom. So when he knocked this all over, he pulled out the frames that were at the bottom of the hive that had all of the bees and all of the honey in it that they were storing up for the year. And he ate that, and then he just knocked and left all the rest of this. He looked through it, looks like he scattered it a little bit. I mean, and these things aren't light. They're 40, 50 pounds each. For each one of these boxes, they're about 40, 50 pounds. So this was a serious bear that took this down. So I was looking at some of these frames as I was picking them up, and if you look at it like this, you really don't see it that distinctly, but if you turn it up on an angle, you can see the claw mark right through there, or he raked through there with his claws. Same thing over here, you can kind of see those distinct claw marks as he went down through the honeycomb here and just took it out. Man, that is wild. Man, I thought when I looked at this thing, it would just be, good to point out that look at how far this bee box that would have weighed probably 30 to 40 pounds is away from the hive. That's a good 10 feet or so away from where it was set up on this stump. It was super stable, and it was actually on the other side where you can see the platform still set up now. That's where it was originally. So that bear knocked all of this down, knocked that clean over here. I didn't place it there. It was there when I got here. So this is where everything just kind of originally was. I mean, just this top alone is super heavy. It's got a metal top here. I mean, this thing's not light for just to be tossing around. So this bear really did a number on this hive. So I think my goal at this point is just going to be to try to salvage as much as I can of this, clean it up, get it ready, take it back up to the house and get it ready for next year's bees. It's not doing anybody any good sitting out here. It's just weathering in this, when it rains and the sun and stuff's beating down on it. So I'm going to just clean this stuff up and just have a look at it, take it up, try to repair as much as I can at the house, and then bring it back out for next year's bees. Now, one thing I thought was pretty cool when I was kind of pulling this apart, this is the bottom that was left up there. It's the base of the actual hive. And down here at the bottom is still the queen cell that I originally put in. I hadn't taken it out yet, and you can see it's kind of stuck in there. There is a sugar plug that's put in right here, and the bees actually chew that down, they eat it, and they free the queen who is trapped inside of here. And then she starts trying to make this, make her brood and make the hive. So this was from, I originally put them out this year. And again, you can see the video of where we put these out earlier and see how it's changed over time. But this, that was just kind of a little, it's a little bittersweet because that's from the spring where we were putting them out, and to have it in like this is just kind of a bummer. I will reuse all of this. You can see, this is where the bees were going in and out. And so they literally wore down the wood here, where everywhere else it's kind of a grayish color, but there they kept it nice and clean, wore it out just through the friction of in and out. So when everything's said and done, this is what we have left. We have one of the boxes, that's the super, and that's the bottom box. This box is fairly intact. Need to maybe put a few nails and stuff to kind of tack it back together. I lost a couple of frames on the super, probably because it's up at the top and it had the farthest to fall when the bear knocked it over, but it doesn't look like he went after this significantly. And that's just because there was no honey in it, right? These bees hadn't produced any. I just gave them room so they wouldn't wind up kind of swarming out or bearding out when it got hot this summer. I gave them a little bit more space inside. This is the frames. This is the box that they really, just kind of decimated. He tore into this, ate bits and pieces off of it, tore apart frames. You can see here there's just nothing left. Like I said, chunks missing out of here. So I'll definitely have to buy a few new frames to fill this back out come spring, but it is what it is. That's just the nature of things on a homestead. If you guys are enjoying the video today and you enjoy seeing how to start a homestead and learning more about how to begin your homesteading journey, make sure you subscribe to our channel and follow us at Purpose Driven Homestead. All right, back to the bees. Now this hive behind me is still doing really well, and we've got 3 of them left. So The next question is, what do we do here about the remaining 3 hives for the remainder of the winter, the spring, kind of as we approach this? What's our view going to be? I think it's almost certainly that a bear did this. It's really the only predator around here that's capable. We do have a lot of predators around here. We have foxes, we have coyotes, we have bear, we have wolves. We even have bobcats, and there's been some sightings of some some people call jaguars or pumas or mountain lions, whatever. Big cats is kind of the point. So not a bobcat, but a bigger cat. They're starting to come back into the area as it becomes a bit more wild. This area is actually dropping in population. It's getting smaller, and so less and less people are here in this rural area. So because of that, those animals are kind of encroaching back into areas that they wouldn't have been in before. There's also been some things where some of the local wildlife groups have dropped in new animals. Wolves were here originally 100, 150 years ago, and where we are, they've now reintroduced red wolves back into the space, and they started branching out and going into neighboring counties and stuff. And so there's a lot of predators around here, but none of those predators would want to be getting into our bees like a bear would.
Oh, honey eater. Bears eat honey. A bear. Anything with a bear?
Now, it's not quite like what you'd see in maybe the cartoons where it's the bare necessities and they're going out and they're grabbing honey out of there, or Winnie the Pooh kind of bear.
Somebody seems to have eaten all the honey.
These bears are looking for food because it's getting closer to winter, right? So it's the fall now, it's getting close to winter. They're looking for food sources, and our bees are just too attractive to them to probably let go. Now, I'm guessing this was a young bear because it's been a few days since I could get out here and check on this since I saw it, and I haven't seen any other signs of it. It's right adjacent to the pasture where our dogs were, and you know, hindsight being what it is, there was a night a few days ago where our dogs were just losing it. And I came out and I checked, and she was pointed in a different direction, and I thought she was just barking at maybe coyotes or something like that, but they were both losing their minds. And so again, that was in the pasture adjacent to it. She couldn't get out of that pasture over to this side where I have the bees at. And my guess is that was the night that we lost this hive. So my plan is, you know, whenever I hear the dogs, I will definitely come out here and check. Sometimes I'll pop out and just check on stuff generally in the area, but I've never come out to the bees as a practice to check on it because I've never really thought that was going to be a concern. Now we're probably going to have to approach that differently. Our goal is I'm going to do some weed eating around here probably when it gets just a little bit cooler, and if we can hang on to these other hives, hopefully the bear doesn't come back. Again, I think it was probably a young bear, and that young bear got into the bees, and I'm guessing they stung that bear like crazy, and because of that the bear hasn't made a return. So we sacrificed a hive, but that hive really made an impression on the bear, and it hasn't made another trip out to the other 3 to mess with them. That's my hope. Can't guarantee that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to try to get out here when it's a little bit cooler. We're going to weed eat around here, and then I'm going to put up an electric fence. I've had a lot of people tell me that they have had good results. Some other people say it doesn't change anything at all. The bear just goes where he wants. It's a big animal. These are black bears around here. They're not brown bears. They're not grizzly bears. So the black bears are a little smaller, but they're still a big animal, and they tend to go wherever they want to. If they want to go right through an electric fence, might not really deter them. But it's the best we can do probably versus putting them. The other option is to put them in with their dogs. Our dogs are big dogs. The black bears around here tend to run closer to like 150 to 200 pounds. That's the size of our dogs. Now, the claws on a bear are very different than the claws on a dog, but our dogs are formidable, and most black bears would rather run than fight. They aren't really interested, unless you're getting around their cubs or something like that, they are not interested in people. They're not interested in being around dogs. They want to go to another place. And so the other option is if we lose a hive before we can get this all kind of fenced off, or if we fence it off and we lose a hive again, we're probably gonna have to move the remaining hives into the fenced in area where our dogs are to try to keep them safe. Now, there's a lot of wilderness around here where we're at. Again, we had this log, but it was all woods before, and there's just a tremendous amount of space out here, and that means wild animals. So we're gonna have to come to terms with that. This is just something that as a homesteader, you have to prepare for. You have to kind of find ways to work around. Again, if we can make this more safe for our bees, we will. We may have to relocate them. I really don't want to do that. It has actually really worked well being out here. They seem to have thrived this year. Our goal is to try to get these guys safe and start producing some honey for our homestead, and then expand our hives to potentially start producing some for our community as well. So we've got to figure this out. I'd like to discourage the bear. I'd like to keep our hives safe. I'd also like to keep them out of the areas where our cattle and our dogs are, because the dogs might get curious and then the dogs are going to get stung. So it's really a balance here of what we're trying to do. How do we keep them safe but let them be their own thing and do their wild bee component on their own, away from people, so that they can live their lives and do what bees do. Naturally in the wild, they'd be in trees, they'd be in hollows, they'd be in spaces that don't have people. And so we're trying to keep these guys as people free as possible, but give them the best experience and keep the honey for ourselves. I hope you've all enjoyed the video today. Hopefully you've learned a little bit as well. We did. I mean, this is our first time keeping bees. It's our first full year, and really it hasn't been a big challenge. This has been the first big challenge that we've faced. We've been very blessed in the fact that our hives didn't leave. They didn't go swarm and move off. That happens a lot to people. They wind up losing some of their hives or a portion of their hives. They go out into the wild. We didn't have any of those problems. This is the first hive we've lost, and the others are really strong. So I hope this gives you some suggestions if you're trying to do this as well on your homestead or on your farm. Hopefully it gives you some ideas of, man, how do I protect these guys? Because if I had to do this all over again, I might have set up the electric fence automatically. When I put the hives in originally, I would have already put the electric fence around, and it would make it a little easier now than having to go back and do that after the fact. All right, guys, I've got this all packed up. Now I'm gonna go take it over to the barn. I'll clean it up and I'll have it ready for next year. If you've enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. Also give it a thumbs up. That helps our channel more than you know. And with that, guys, we'll see you next time on the Purpose Driven Homestead.